Hello there. I'm Heidi Brumbaugh with Be Well TV, and you are watching Be Well TV Live. Today, we're going to talk about finances. I have a special guest today, Sara Frank-Hepfer, Vice President of Financial Technology. She is located in East Lansing, Michigan, but licensed in many, many states. So if you're in one of those states, please listen closely to her advice. And she's got some great tips about your personal finances and perhaps business finances as well, but we'll see. Sara, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Heidi. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Sara, so I want to open things up with just asking, what is a financial advisor? What do they do?
Sure. Well, a financial advisor is your partner or your coach when it comes to figuring out your financial life. So they might help you with budgeting. They might help you with planning. What they generally do not do is a financial advisor doesn't generally do your taxes. They might do some very topical credit counseling, but they're not generally going to be credit counselors. They're not going to help with bankruptcy or with credit consolidation, much past simplistic plans.
And Sara, I also want to ask, you are a certified financial planner. What exactly does that mean, and why would someone want to look for that CFP accreditation versus someone who just claims to be a financial advisor?
That's a great question. So the Certified Financial Planner is a special designation where you have to have enough years of experience, you have to pass a pretty arduous exam, and you also have to adhere to a code of ethics. All CFPs must have the fiduciary standard. They have to use it at all times. We also have to know not only about investments and making a plan, but we have to be really well versed when it comes to risk mitigation, when it comes to estate planning, retirement planning, college savings, and working all of that in the most tax efficient method possible. So it's a great idea to go to the CFP board website, which is letsmakeaplan.org, and check out who your local CFP might be.
Great advice. I know there's a lot happening in the world today, and advice is kind of flying left and right. So I think it is very important that individuals look for that certification, so you know that code of ethics is a huge thing, because you're not just voicing your opinion, you're going through the professional standards to lend advice to individuals. Which takes me to, what specifically are your areas of expertise?
I do a lot of retirement planning, and I love working with small business owners. My dad was a small business owner. So how can we plan for retirement in the most tax efficient way? I know as small business owners, it's really easy to think that your business is going to be your retirement, but a lot of times your business is your knowledge, and that's just not something that you can sell. It's not easily transferable. So I like to try to help business owners diversify. Of course, we do a lot of college savings plans and a lot of insurance coverage as well.
You know, that's a really great tip for business owners, because I know as a business owner myself, a lot of times we do think that our business will be our retirement. We're going to sell it someday, or we'll have this big chunk of cash sitting in the bank and we'll be able to live off that. But that, while it could be true, likely is not. So planning for retirement is important, both for businesses and for individuals. So something that I want to talk about next is, obviously there has been a lot of surprise in the last year. No one really saw the economic and financial hardships coming that we saw in the last year. So that was a very unusual situation. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. However, individuals can be affected by the unexpected in many ways. You can have an injury, you can have an illness. Things happen that might take you out of the workforce, and you might not receive your paycheck anymore. How can an individual be prepared for those emergencies? I know that there's the standard, you should save 3 to 6 months of savings, but what else can individuals do to prepare for emergencies like that?
That's a great question. So the 3 to 6 month savings is a fabulous ideal. That's a great way to go. I think other things that people can do would be make sure that you do have a short-term disability policy, even if it's just contacting AFLAC, something that could put a little bit of cash in your pocket in the event something came up. Also, consider looking at Roth IRAs. So if you have a Roth IRA, you can take out as much as you've contributed at any time without taxes or penalties. So if push comes to shove, you could take out your basis in a Roth IRA to help out in a tight spot. Also think about doing some freelance work, depending on what your reason for being down is. Are you down because of an injury and you really can't get out of bed? Or were you downsized at work where you might be able to do some freelance work? It's really going to be different for everyone.
Now, I don't want to turn this into a commercial for AFLAC, but you mentioned AFLAC. Can you explain what AFLAC and similar kinds of products are and how they work with your major medical insurance?
Sure. So AFLAC or these other supplemental insurances, generally you purchase yourself. So your business isn't going to pay for them. They might help you do the payroll, so you write an extra check for it. But the idea is you can have a policy for just about anything. You can have, I think there's an accident policy, and that accident could be you slipped on some ice and fell. Not you, Heidi, because you're in Florida, making us all jealous. But they will send you money as long as you've had the incident happen. So another pretty common coverage is a cancer coverage. If I were diagnosed with skin cancer, I know I'm rocking this incredible tan, then I could collect payments, even if I could continue to work.
Okay, so now in the last year, we learned, obviously in my industry, in event production and television production, we work with a lot of freelancers, and there are a lot of industries that work with a lot of freelancers. Freelancers, the term is used kind of loosely, but generally it refers to an independent contractor that is issued a 1099 versus a W-2. So kind of by the rules of the law, they are a company in and of themselves. They operate as a sole proprietor, but they have to follow a lot of the same rules as business owners that do have employees. So how can a freelancer prepare for their retirement, be prepared for disability should that occur, things like that? What can they do?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. A lot of things that you could do could actually be a tax deduction for a person who is self-employed. You're a 1099 employee. You can put insurance on yourself for disability and get a deduction for that. You could have what's called a SEP IRA. That's a self-employed pension. It's not really a pension, but you're able to put a quarter of your income up to, I believe it's $55,000 this year. That number moves every year, so I might have that a little bit off. But it becomes a business expense. So it is another receipt that you've come up with. And because the IRS does know that self-employed people are super busy, they actually let you fund it after the fact. So you can do it until the end of your tax filing extension. So this year, May 17th is the normal. October will be the extension.
That's really good. That's really good information, because those of you that are paying attention, what she just said is you actually have a few more months to contribute and take care of yourself financially should you have some funds available and you want that tax write-off. That actually leads me to, can an individual set up their own retirement plan? I know a lot of people are familiar with 401ks if they work for large employers or even small businesses that offer that, but can an individual fund their own retirement plan?
Oh, absolutely. So if they have the 99, they can do the SEP IRA, which is really inexpensive. There's not special tax filing. If they wanted to do a 401k, you can do that. There are things called a solo 401k. But oftentimes, you actually pay more using the SEP IRA in the solo 401k. If you were not, say you're not a 1099, you are getting a W-2, but your business just does not offer anything, What you could do is open an IRA, a traditional or a Roth. Traditional is pre-tax, the Roth is after-tax. You could do both if you wanted, but the feds only allow you a maximum contribution every year. The secret to having one of those would be either you or your spouse you're legally married to must have earned income. So there's got to be a W-2 somewhere. But you could set up your own IRA.
Okay, so I'm going to try to listen really closely so I can learn can you explain the difference in very simple terms? What's the difference between a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, and a SEP IRA?
Whoa, good question. Normally I draw goofy pictures, so I apologize as my sketch pad's like
Oh, we
on the
should have
other
had a
side of the
whiteboard.
room. Well, if you think about it like an umbrella, so your traditional IRA and your SEP IRA, this is my umbrella, your original money is under it. It hasn't been taxed yet. So you buy whatever you want. You invest it in stocks and bonds and mutual funds, ETFs, whatever. When you take it out in retirement is when it's going to be taxed. The flip side of that is your Roth IRA, another umbrella, your original money is over here. It's already been taxed. It's assumed that you paid a payroll tax at some point. So you don't have an extra tax bill to put money in. You buy your stocks, your bonds, your mutual funds, whatever you want under this umbrella. And when you take it out, it's completely free of taxes. So depending on what your future picture is going to be financially, what you think is going to happen with taxes, it might be wiser to fund a Roth IRA than a traditional. Or if you expect to want to travel and take big trips in retirement, it's often a great idea to have that Roth IRA money available because you could take out a big chunk and not have to worry about the taxation.
Okay. All right, so you keep mentioning taxes, and I know that you are not a professional tax preparer. That's not really your area. However, I know that you're very knowledgeable about finances overall, and people will need to know because the time is near. What's different about taxes this year? A lot of people have received stimulus money. Maybe they've received small business loans. Maybe they've been on unemployment. It's not the norm. What's different this year?
Oh my gosh, there's so much different this year. And everything's a little bit different. So in general, the stimulus was considered a return of prepaid taxes. So you don't even have to worry about claiming it on your taxes. Easy peasy. Unemployment, it depends. Same thing for the small business loans. So the IRS actually has, I hate to say it, a pretty user-friendly website that you can get on and look over. Has it already been forgiven? Do you need to claim it if it's a PPL loan? And for the unemployment in general, your first $10,000, $10,200, I believe, is going to be free of taxes. Now, if you make too much money, if you're married and the two of you have combined income that's too high, you might not be able to write all of that off. Look on the IRS website. I promise it's not super hard to read. They've done a fairly good job at helping you figure out where you come down on the taxation.
Okay. So, Sara, I know that you specialize in investments, and there's a lot of people, since they've maybe been unemployed or underemployed and not making the salaries that they've been used to, with the economy just going kind of cuckoo in the last year. A lot of people have gotten into the stock market, and a lot of it is kind of throwing spaghetti against the wall. It's like gambling. How do you advise that a person decide where to invest when we're talking about stocks?
Oh, that's a great question. So when somebody tells me they have some money available to invest, I need to know when they expect to get their money back. Because if it's a short-term investment, we generally, in my world, because I am a fiduciary and I have to do the best thing for you, I want it to be safe to make sure that you can have your money back. If you're going to be doing your own trading, then you might be looking at a quick turnaround. I think the most important piece there would be, how are you going to feel when you see a negative number? Because if you invest in the stock market, there's no way around it. At some point, it's going to be a negative number. You don't have to sell it that day, but are you going to be able to sleep when you see it? So that's, I think, the first thing is figuring out when you want your money back and how you're going to feel about seeing negatives. And then from there, you can look at what you're interested in and what's most cost effective.
So I have to ask, what was your reaction to the GameStop thing?
I thought it was hysterical, and maybe I shouldn't. I think that most of the Redditors were doing it not knowing what they were doing. And so that was really an emotional play for them because let's face it, we all love video games. I mean, I haven't really played a whole lot since Breath of the Wild came out, but that was beautiful. And I think a lot of those people were saying, oh, the Switch is great, or I order from GameStop online all the time. And everybody was home, and there were a lot of video games and consoles being sold. So those people were really making an emotional play. And I think that's fine and good. I think it's kind of funny that it hurt the big guys who had the hedges against it. So what was happening there was there were a lot of people betting that GameStop was going to fail. And when the Reddit crowd got up and drove that price up, the people who were betting on the fails had to sell theirs and then try to buy it back again. So it was really pretty funny, I thought. Now, I do know a lot of Redditors got hurt because they bought it as it was climbing up, and then the price came back down some, and they didn't understand because maybe they were in it for the emotional reason. So I hope that everybody comes out okay on the individual.
Yeah.
Really, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, the motivation on that was some people got in it as a gamble, really. They saw it riding up and they thought that they could jump on the bandwagon and make some money. And some people were motivated just to stick it to the man, I guess. So that was kind of a different situation. But when you are kind of deciding on stocks that you invest in, do you recommend that an individual kind of research the companies that they're investing in?
Yeah, so you should kind of have an idea of the company that you're investing in and what it is that they do. Ooh, sorry about that. One of the things I like to do, I'm not a super technical investor, but I do like to look at something called the PE. That's the price to earnings ratio. And there's a number assigned to that, and you'll be able to find it anywhere, Yahoo Finance, Google, everything's going to list the PE. What you want is a number generally 20 or below, because we know then that the profitability of the company is such that they can afford to pay out that price or their dividends. The flip side would be if you want something that's going to rocket up like crazy, you might buy something with a very high PE because the company is not yet profitable. So those are considerations to look at.
Okay. And if you are someone who doesn't have time to do the research, or you're just not interested or don't feel savvy enough to do the research, can you explain what a mutual fund is and how that works?
Sure. So you could buy an individual stock, and if you're going to own individual stocks as a serious investor, we're probably going to want you to own 20 to 30 different companies because we don't want them all to be in the U.S. We don't want them all to be real estate or utilities. We want to spread the risk out. We don't want them all to be A credit quality. We want to have a couple of Bs in there. So you can buy this already done, and that is called a mutual fund. A mutual fund is an actively managed basket of securities that is intended to grow your money. So it's kind of a cool thing to do. An index fund would be similar, but it's not actively managed. So you could look at maybe a combination of both. You want to have some active management and maybe some index funds so it's lower cost. It really depends on what's right for the individual person and how they feel about risk.
Well, the last question I have for you, Sara, is about small businesses, because you did say that you specialize in and love working with small businesses. Small businesses need to be competitive with large companies, and that often comes with offering some kind of benefit. How can a smaller employer help their employees with their financial health?
Well, I think there are a couple of really easy things that small employers could do. and they would really not cost anything. First and foremost, they could invite their local financial advisor to come into the office and do a lunch and learn. Let the advisor talk to the employees and help them start their own plans. So that's pretty easy to do. The advisor generally will even buy lunch for the employees. If it's a really small employer, you could set up what's called a payroll deduction individual retirement account, or payroll deduction IRA. So I have a very small employer who's in HVAC. They have some employees that just contribute $3 a week. It goes through their payroll, and that's the only benefit that that employer is paying for, is the accounting of sending money in with payroll. Of course, you could do a simple IRA or a more robust system if you're slightly larger. Lots of options, and a good knowledgeable advisor should be able to help you weigh out what the best thing is for you.
Well, I love the lunch and learn idea. That sounds like a fantastic idea.
Me too.
Cool. Well, Sara, thank you so much. Real quick, I do want to kind of address what states are you licensed in so our viewers know where you might be able to personally provide assistance.
So I'm just trying to find that right now. I'm not awful. I don't know.
I know
off the
sometimes
top of
it's so
my
hard
head.
to keep track. Which ones do you like to work in the most? Where do you have clients currently?
I have lots of clients in Florida, in Michigan, and in Texas, California, and Colorado. Those are the ones off the top of my head that I know I have several clients in. Ohio also.
Fantastic. And if someone wants to reach out for more information, how do they track you down?
Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm on social media everywhere. So I'm
You
on
do post a
LinkedIn.
lot on social media.
I don't try to like overburden anybody, I
You don't.
swear. But I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I actually have a Pinterest board that's kind of basic financial planning because I'm a visual person, and so I think it's fun to look at visuals. Or you can just email me at Frank, F-R-A-N-K, at financial, T-E-C, that's tech without the H.com. Pretty easy.
And the website, of course, is financialtechtec.com. So if you'd like to learn more about the business, about their company, and what they have to offer, please take a look, and you will see all of those links in the comments here on the live stream. So, Sara, thank you so much for being a part of our show today. I appreciate it, and I wish you would be well.
Aw, thank you so much, Heidi. I hope you have a great day. I'm glad to be able to see you again.
Thanks, Sara. And for the viewers at home, you be well as well.